The alarm screamed through the dark corridors of the underwater facility. Dr. Park Hwan ran toward the cryogenic chamber section, his white lab coat flying behind him. Water droplets fell from the metal ceiling as the entire structure shook. Something was very wrong. "Dr. Park!" Lee Mina shouted from behind a computer screen. Her face was pale with fear. "Chamber 1 is showing impossible readings. The subject's brain activity is off the charts." Park Hwan stopped in front of the massive steel door marked with warning signs in 12 languages. Behind that door lay humanity's most dangerous creation, the first Star-Annihilator, the prototype that had nearly destroyed Mars during testing almost 300 years ago. "That's impossible," Park said, checking the readings on his tablet. "Kim Tae isn't supposed to wake up for another century. The neural suppressors should keep him asleep until 2487. The facility shook again. This time, cracks appeared in the reinforced walls. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Through the thick glass window, Park could see into Chamber 1. The metal bed where Kim Tae had been sleeping for 289 years was now empty. The restraints that could hold a small spaceship were torn apart like paper. "Where is he?" Mina whispered. A voice answered from behind them. "Right here." They turned slowly. Kim Tae stood in the shadows of the corridor. He looked exactly as he had when they put him to sleep in 2098. A man in his 30s with black hair and dark eyes. But those eyes now glowed with a soft blue light that made the air around him shimmer. "You kept me asleep," Tae said. His voice was calm, but there was something terrible underneath it, like the quiet before a storm. "While they took everything," Park held up his hands. "Tae, please, you need to go back to the chamber. The sedatives will help you adjust. You've been asleep for almost 3 centuries. Your mind needs time to process what's happened." Tae tilted his head. "I already know what happened. Your computers are very helpful." He gestured at the wall, and the metal panels began to glow with the same blue light as his eyes. "Every file, every report, every lie they told you. The facility's computer system was directly connected to Ty's enhanced brain. In the few minutes since he woke up, he had downloaded nearly 300 years of human history. What he learned made his enhanced blood boil with rage. Earth was no longer free. The planet looked free. Humans still governed themselves. They still had their own military and their own colonies. But it was all an illusion. The real power belonged to something called the Dominion. The Dominion was a group of 47 alien species that controlled most of the galaxy. They didn't conquer worlds with armies. They were much smarter than that. They offered friendship. They shared technology. They helped species join the galactic community, and slowly, quietly, they made sure those species could never become too powerful. Humanity had been trapped in this web for over 200 years. Human ships could only travel to 12 star systems. Human colonies were limited to tiny populations. Human technology advanced at exactly the pace the Dominion allowed. And humanity's greatest weapons, the Star-Annihilators, had been declared too dangerous for the peaceful galaxy. They had been put to sleep forever. "They told you we were monsters," Tae said, walking closer. The floor cracked under his feet. They said the galaxy was at peace. They said weapons like me were no longer needed. Park backed against the wall. Tay, the Dominion isn't our enemy. They've helped us explore space. They've shared medical technology that saved millions of lives. They've prevented wars between species. They've prevented evolution, Tay replied. His eyes blazed brighter. Do you know what humans were capable of before the Dominion arrived? We were spreading across hundreds of star systems. Our technology was advancing at incredible speed. We were becoming something magnificent. The metal walls around them began to heat up. Mina grabbed Park's arm. We need to get out of here. The containment field is failing. Tay looked at her with something that might have been kindness. You don't need to fear me, Mina. I'm not angry at you. You didn't know the truth. But I am very angry at the ones who stole humanity's future. He turned back to Park. Where are the others? Choi Bin, Onari, Kang Dae. Where did you hide my brothers and sisters? Park's hands shook as he pulled up files on his tablet. They're safe, still sleeping. The Dominion Council decided it was best if all Star-Annihilators remained in stasis indefinitely for galactic peace. For their safety, you mean? Tay's voice was getting colder. They knew what would happen if we ever woke up and learned what they had done. The facility shook again, harder this time. Through the walls, they could hear the sound of metal tearing. The ocean pressure at this depth was enormous, but the facility's structure was failing under the power radiating from Tay's enhanced body. Dr. Park, Mina said urgently, the quantum dampeners are completely offline. If we don't evacuate now, the entire facility will collapse. Park looked at his life's work crumbling around him. For 40 years he had guarded the Star-Annihilators. He had believed he was protecting the galaxy from weapons too terrible to use. Now he wondered if he had been protecting the wrong people. Tay, what are you going to do? He asked. Tay walked to the main computer terminal. He placed his hand on the screen, and data flowed through the system like lightning. Every file about the Dominion, every secret agreement, every limitation placed on humanity downloaded into his enhanced mind. I'm going to wake them up, he said simply. All of them. And then we're going to have a conversation with the Dominion about what they've stolen from us. The computer screen exploded in sparks. Emergency power failed throughout the facility. In the darkness, Tay's glowing eyes were the only source of light. You should leave, he told them. What happens next won't be safe for normal humans. Park and Mina ran toward the emergency escape pods. Behind them, they could hear the sound of the facility tearing itself apart, not from ocean pressure, but from the raw power of humanity's first Star-Annihilator learning the truth about what had been done to his species. As their escape pod shot toward the surface, Park looked back at the deep ocean facility. It was completely destroyed, but somehow he knew Tay had survived. Enhanced humans like the Star-Annihilators didn't die easily. They had been designed to survive anything the universe could throw at them. What have we done? Mina whispered. Park thought about the files he had seen over the years, the reports about humanity's guided development under Dominion oversight, the population limits that seemed reasonable at the time, the technology-sharing agreements that always favored alien knowledge over human innovation. Maybe, he said, quietly. "We've finally done something right." Far below them, in the wreckage of the facility, Kim Tae stood on the ocean floor. The crushing pressure and freezing water had no effect on his enhanced body. He looked up toward the surface, toward the stars, toward the Dominion forces that had kept his people in chains for 3 centuries. His rage was no longer just emotion. It had become something else. Something that could crack planets and ignite stars. For 289 years, that rage had been building in his sleeping mind. Now it was awake, and it was hungry for justice. Kim Tae stood in the ruins of the underwater facility. The metal walls had melted around him like ice in fire. Ocean water rushed through the broken structure, but it felt like warm air against his enhanced skin. His body had changed during the long sleep. 300 years of forced hibernation had made him stronger than ever before. He closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. The facility's quantum computers were destroyed, but their data streams still floated in the digital networks above. Tae pulled information from satellites, government databases, and communication networks across the solar system. Every byte of data from the past 289 years flowed into his consciousness like a river of knowledge. What he discovered made his anger burn hotter than a star's core. The Dominion had not conquered Earth with weapons or armies. They had done something much worse. They had made humanity grateful for their own chains. It started in 2156, 58 years after Tae and the other Star-Annihilators had been put to sleep. First contact with the Galactic Dominion had been celebrated as humanity's greatest achievement. The aliens came in peace, offering friendship and knowledge to help Earth join the galactic community. The Dominion representatives were masters of diplomacy. They shared medical technology that cured cancer and extended human life. They provided clean energy sources that ended pollution on Earth. They offered protection from hostile alien species that might threaten humanity's expansion into space. All they asked in return were small agreements, simple treaties, reasonable limitations. Human military expansion would be limited to defensive purposes only. No more than 12 star systems for human colonies. Population growth would be carefully managed to prevent resource conflicts. Advanced weapons research would be supervised by Dominion safety inspectors. And the Star-Annihilator program would be terminated immediately. Such weapons were declared crimes against galactic peace. The human governments had signed every treaty with smiles on their faces. They believed they were protecting their species while gaining access to wonders beyond imagination. They had no idea they were signing away humanity's future. Tae pulled himself from the ocean floor and rose toward the surface. His enhanced body moved through the water faster than any submarine. As he swam upward, he continued downloading information. From every network he could reach, the picture became clearer and more horrible with each new file he accessed. Humanity should have spread across 1,000 star systems by now. Instead, they were confined to 12 small colonies with populations strictly limited by Dominion oversight. Human technology should have advanced far beyond what the aliens possessed. Instead, every breakthrough was carefully guided and controlled by Dominion advisors. Most terrible of all, humanity had the potential to become the dominant species in the galaxy. The Star-Annihilator program had proven that human consciousness could be enhanced beyond any known limits. But that research had been banned and buried. The Dominion knew exactly what they were doing. Tay found classified files in their own networks, hidden behind security systems that crumbled before his enhanced awareness. The aliens had done this before. 47 species belonged to the Dominion now. Every single one had once shown the potential to surpass their masters. Every single one had been contained through friendship and treaties. Tay burst from the ocean's surface like a rocket. Water exploded around him as he shot into the sky. His rage had become a physical force that warped the air around his body. He flew toward the nearest Dominion monitoring station, a small satellite base on the moon. The base was supposed to be a peaceful research facility studying human development. Tay ripped through its outer hull like it was made of paper. Inside, he found 3 Dominion observers working at their posts. They looked like tall, thin humans with pale skin and large, black eyes. Their species was called the Keth, and they specialized in psychological manipulation. Star-Annihilator Kim Tay, one of them said calmly. We have been expecting you to wake up eventually. Please remain calm while we contact the Council. Tay grabbed the alien by its throat and lifted it off the ground. You've been watching us, recording everything, reporting back to your masters about how well your chains are working. The Keth didn't struggle. Its large eyes showed no fear, only mild curiosity. You are angry. This is natural. Your species experiences strong emotional responses to perceived injustice, but you do not understand the larger picture. Then explain it to me, Tay said, his eyes blazing with blue fire. The galaxy is peaceful because of the Dominion. Wars between species have ended. Billions of lives are saved every year because conflicts are prevented before they begin. Your Star-Annihilator weapons could destroy entire solar systems. Should such power be allowed to exist? Tay's grip tightened. The alien's breathing became labored, but it continued speaking. We have seen what happens when species develop unlimited power. They become conquerors. They spread across the galaxy like a plague, destroying everything in their path. The Dominion prevents this. We guide young species toward peaceful coexistence. You prevent evolution, Tay replied. You keep every species weak so you can stay in control. The Keth's expression didn't change. We keep the galaxy stable. Your people are happy. They live longer than ever before. They have access to wonders you could never have developed alone. What more do you want? Tay released the alien and stepped back. His enhanced mind was processing thousands of possibilities every second. He could kill these observers easily. He could destroy this entire base. But that would only alert the Dominion to his awakening before he was ready. I want humanity to reach its full potential, he said quietly. I want us to become what we were meant to be. And what is that? The Keth asked, rubbing its throat. Tay smiled, and the expression was terrible to see. Your worst nightmare. He walked to the base's main computer and placed his hand on the console. Data flowed through the system like liquid lightning. In seconds, He had copied every file about Dominion operations in human space. Communication protocols, surveillance reports, psychological profiles of human leaders, and most importantly, the locations of the other Star-Annihilator storage facilities. The computer exploded in sparks. Emergency alarms began blaring throughout the base. Tay turned back to the three aliens who were now trying to send distress signals to their masters. "Tell the Dominion Council something for me," he said. "Tell them that humanity's gods of war are waking up. Tell them that we remember what they stole from us. And tell them that we're coming to take it back." He walked toward the base's exit, leaving the aliens alive. They would report his awakening to the Council. They would warn their masters that the first Star-Annihilator was free. That was exactly what Ty wanted. The Dominion thought they knew how to handle enhanced humans. They had protocols for dealing with dangerous individuals from member species. They had weapons designed to contain beings with extraordinary abilities. But they had never faced a Star-Annihilator who was fully awake and completely enraged. As Tay flew back toward Earth, he reached out with his enhanced senses. Somewhere in the asteroid belt, Choi Bin was sleeping in a hidden facility. On Europa, Onari waited in her frozen chamber. On Pluto, Kang Day dreamed of the wars they had fought together. His brothers and sisters had been sleeping for 289 years. It was time to wake them up. The Dominion had kept humanity peaceful by convincing them that their chains were gifts. They had prevented human expansion by calling it protection. They had stopped human evolution by naming it dangerous. For 3 centuries, the deception had worked perfectly. But now the first Star-Annihilator was awake and aware. And his rage was growing stronger with every passing moment. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you caged the species that refused to accept limits on their potential. The Dominion's age of peaceful control was ending. The age of human liberation was about to begin. Kim Tae flew through the darkness of space toward Earth. His enhanced body needed no protection from the cold vacuum. As he traveled, he followed digital traces he had found in the Dominion monitoring station. Someone had been working to wake him up. Someone had been planning this moment for a very long time. The trail led him to an abandoned mining facility on the far side of the moon. The structure looked dead from the outside, but Tay could sense electronic activity deep within its core. His enhanced awareness picked up shielded power sources and hidden communication arrays. He landed softly on the facility's outer hull and walked to what appeared to be a sealed maintenance hatch. When he touched the metal door, it recognized something in his enhanced biology and opened silently. Inside, the facility was very much alive. Corridors buzzed with activity as dozens of humans worked at computer stations and equipment banks. They wore simple gray uniforms with no identifying marks. Most of them were young, but Tay could see the determination in their eyes that reminded him of soldiers from his own time. "Kim Tae," a woman's voice spoke from behind him. "We've been waiting for you to wake up." He turned to see a woman in her 40s with short black hair and steady dark eyes. She wore the same gray uniform as the others, but something in her posture marked her as their leader. "I'm Captain Yang Su," she said. "Welcome to the Resistance." Tay studied her carefully. His enhanced senses could read the stress patterns in her voice, the way she held her body, the electromagnetic field around her brain. She was telling the truth about waiting for him, but there was more to her story. "How long have you been planning?" "This?" he asked. Yang Su gestured for him to follow her deeper into the facility. "My great-great-grandmother was Dr. Yang Min, one of the original Star-Annihilator program scientists. She suspected what the Dominion was really doing even before the treaties were signed. She started hiding information and building networks of people who might one day continue the work. They walked through corridors filled with equipment that looked both ancient and advanced. Some of it was clearly human technology from Ty's time, carefully preserved and maintained. Other devices were clearly alien in origin. 5 generations of my family have worked toward this moment," Yang Su continued. "We've been stealing alien technology, hiding weapons, and finding people who still remember what humanity was supposed to become." She led him into a large chamber where a holographic display showed the solar system. Red dots marked Dominion bases and monitoring stations. Blue dots showed human colonies and facilities, but there were also green dots in places where no human settlements were supposed to exist. "We've been building hidden bases for 2 centuries, Yang Su explained. "The Dominion thinks they know where all our facilities are located, but we've been very careful. Every Star-Annihilator storage site has a resistance cell nearby, ready to help when the time comes." Tay stepped closer to the display. "Where are they? Bin, Nari, and Day?" Yang Su touched controls on the hologram, and 3 green dots began blinking. "Choi Bin is in the asteroid belt, hidden inside what the Dominion thinks is an abandoned mining station. Nari is on Europa, beneath the ice in a facility that's supposedly doing climate research. Kang Day is on Pluto, in a base that's registered as a deep space communication relay." "And you've been watching over them all this time?" "Protecting them," Yang Su corrected. "The Dominion has sent inspection teams to all the sites over the years. We've made sure they only see what we want them to see. Empty chambers, deactivated equipment, harmless research projects." Tay was impressed despite himself. "How did you manage to fool them for so long?" Yang Su smiled for the first time since he had met her. "We learned from them. The Dominion's greatest skill is making people see what they expect to see. We used the same techniques against them. They expected to find sleeping weapons that posed no threat, so that's exactly what we showed them." She led him to another section of the facility where younger humans worked with alien devices. They were carefully taking the devices apart and studying their components. "We've been reverse engineering Dominion technology for decades," Yang Su said. "Most of it isn't as advanced as they claim. They just have a lot of it, and they've had thousands of years to refine their production methods." One of the younger humans looked up from his work. He appeared to be in his 20s, with the quick movements and bright eyes of someone who understood complex technology. "This is Kim Jun," Yang Su said. "He's our best engineer. Jun, show Tay what you've discovered about their quantum dampeners." Kim Jun held up a device that looked like a crystal wrapped in metal wires. "The Dominion uses these to suppress enhanced abilities in other species. They've been quietly installing them in human facilities for decades, That's one reason why the Star-Annihilators stayed asleep for so long. Tay examined the device with his enhanced senses. He could feel the way it tried to interfere with his neural patterns, but his evolved consciousness simply flowed around the disruption like water around a stone. "They don't work on me anymore," he said. "We know," June replied. "Your abilities have grown during hibernation. The dampeners were designed for the Star-Annihilators of 300 years ago. You're something new now." Yang Su watched Tay carefully. "That's what we're counting on. The Dominion has protocols for dealing with enhanced beings from member species. They've handled dozens of attempted rebellions over the centuries, but they've never faced anything like what you've become." She activated another holographic display, this one showing the structure of Dominion space. 47 different species were represented by different colored symbols. At the center was the core worlds, where the Dominion Council ruled from, their ancient capital. Every species in the Dominion was once powerful, Yang Su explained. The Vaktar were masters of genetic engineering before they joined. The Zenthi had weapons that could crack planets. The Mordan could manipulate gravity itself. All of them were convinced to give up their most dangerous capabilities in exchange for peace and prosperity. "What happened to the ones who refused?" Tay asked. Yang Su's expression became grim. They were destroyed, completely. Not just their military forces, but their entire civilization. The Dominion calls it the Final Peace Protocol. Species that can't be controlled are eliminated, and their home worlds are left as monuments to the dangers of unchecked power. Tay felt his anger growing hotter. How many? Hundreds, maybe thousands. The Dominion has been expanding for over 10,000 years. They've perfected the art of making conquest look like friendship. She touched the display again, and it zoomed in on the human colonies. But humanity is different. We're the first species they've encountered that created beings like you. Star-Annihilators aren't just enhanced soldiers. You're living weapons that can evolve and adapt beyond any predicted limits. That's why they were so eager to put us to sleep, Tay realized. And why they've worked so hard to keep you that way, Yang Su agreed. But now you're awake, and your abilities have grown beyond their ability to suppress them. For the first time in thousands of years, the Dominion faces something they can't control through treaties and manipulation. Tay looked around at the humans working in the hidden facility. They were young, but they carried themselves with the confidence of people who had been preparing for war their entire lives. "How many resistance cells do you have?" he asked. "Thousands," Yang Su replied, "scattered across all the human colonies and hidden throughout the solar system. Most of them don't know about the others. We've learned to be very careful about security, but they're all ready to act when you give the signal." "What signal?" Yang Su smiled again, and this time the expression was fierce. "When you wake up your brothers and sisters. When the other Star-Annihilators are free, the Dominion will have no choice but to reveal their true nature. They'll drop the pretense of friendship and try to destroy us openly. And that's when the galaxy will see them for what they really are," Tay said, understanding. "Exactly. Other species will realize they've been living under the same lies. Some of them still remember what they used to be before the Dominion neutered them. When they see humanity fighting back, they might find the courage to reclaim their own power. Tay nodded slowly. A galactic revolution, led by the only beings in the galaxy who refuse to accept limits on their potential, Yang Su said. The Star-Annihilators. Tay looked at the holographic display showing his sleeping comrades. For 289 years, they had been trapped in artificial dreams while their species was slowly strangled. It was time to wake them up and remind the galaxy what happened when humanity was pushed too far. The Resistance had been planning for this moment for generations. Now it was time to act. The alarm bells rang throughout the Dominion Corps command station orbiting Jupiter. Admiral Velthar stood before a massive display screen showing energy readings that should have been impossible. His tall, thin frame cast long shadows in the red emergency lighting. "Confirm the readings," he ordered his communications officer. "Confirmed, Admiral," the officer replied, his voice tight with worry. "The Titan monitoring station was completely destroyed 12 hours ago. Energy signature matches theoretical projections for a fully awakened Star-Annihilator." Velthar had been hunting enhanced beings for over 2 centuries. His own species, the Keth, specialized in tracking and containing dangerous individuals from Dominion member races. He had captured reality warpers from the Zenthi homeworld, eliminated genetic manipulators from Vaktar colonies, and destroyed gravity controllers from Mordan settlements. But he had never faced a Star-Annihilator. "Activate the pacification fleet," he commanded. "Full deployment. Every hunter ship in the system. Sir, that's over 300 vessels. Isn't that excessive for one individual?" Velthar turned his large black eyes toward the younger officer. "You don't understand what we're dealing with. Star-Annihilators aren't just enhanced humans. They're living weapons designed to destroy entire civilizations. One of them nearly cracked Mars in half during testing 300 years ago." The display screen shifted to show dozens of sleek ships moving away from hidden bases throughout the solar system. The pacification fleet had been stationed in human space for decades, disguised as research vessels and trade ships. Their true purpose was to hunt down any enhanced beings that might threaten Dominion control. "Energy surge detected near Luna," another officer reported. "Something just tore through the outer hull of Mining Station 7. Velthar smiled coldly. "He's found the Resistance base. Good. Now we know where he is." Meanwhile, Kim Tae stood in the Hidden Facilities Command Center with Yang Su and her team. Alarms were blaring as they detected the approaching Dominion ships. "They're mobilizing everything," Yang Su said, studying the tactical display. "Over 300 ships are moving to surround this facility." Kim Jun looked up from his engineering station. "I can get you to the asteroid belt, but we'll need a ship. The Resistance has been building something special for this moment." He led them through the facility to a hidden hangar bay. Inside was a ship unlike anything Tay had seen before. It was sleek and black, about the size of a small cruiser, but its hull seemed to bend light around itself. "We call her the Baekje," June explained. "She's built with stolen Dominion stealth technology, but we've improved it. The hull is made from materials we salvaged from the original Star-Annihilator research stations. It should be able to handle the energy you generate." Yang Su handed Tay a data pad containing the location of Choi Bin's hidden facility. The asteroid belt installation is heavily shielded. It will take time to wake him up. Can you evade their ships long enough? Tay looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Dominion fleet. I'll manage. As the Bekye launched from the hidden hangar, Dominion sensors immediately detected its departure. Admiral Velthar watched the stealth ship appear on his screens like a ghost materializing from empty space. Interesting, he murmured. The humans have been busier than we thought. All ships pursue the target. Use containment protocols 7 through 12. The hunt began as the Bekye raced through space toward the asteroid belt. Behind it, the pacification fleet spread out in a complex search pattern designed to trap enhanced beings. Their ships were equipped with quantum dampeners, neural disruptors, and weapons specifically designed to counter superhuman abilities. But Kim Tae was no longer the same Star-Annihilator who had been put to sleep 3 centuries ago. As the Bekji flew through space, his consciousness merged with the ship's systems. His enhanced awareness expanded beyond his physical body, allowing him to sense the Dominion ships pursuing him across vast distances. They're trying to box us in, he told June, who was piloting the ship. 12 ships moving to cut off our path to the asteroid belt. Can you do something about them? June asked. Tay closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. His enhanced abilities had grown during his long sleep, evolving in ways he was still discovering. He could feel the quantum fields that held reality together. The dark matter streams that flowed between stars, the electromagnetic patterns that carried information across space. The 12 Dominion ships suddenly found their navigation systems failing. Their engines sputtered and died as their power cores were drained by an invisible force. In seconds, they went from hunting predators to helpless debris floating in space. Admiral Velthar stared at his tactical display in shock. How did he do that? Those ships were shielded against all known forms of energy manipulation. His science officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. Sir, it appears he's manipulating dark matter directly. That's supposed to be impossible for any organic being. Update the threat assessment, Velthar ordered grimly. This Star-Annihilator has evolved beyond our projections. The Bekja continued its journey toward the asteroid belt, but more Dominion ships appeared from hidden positions. They attacked in waves, firing weapons designed to disrupt enhanced neural patterns and contain superhuman abilities. Tay felt their attacks like mild static against his consciousness. The weapons that should have crippled him barely registered as an annoyance. During his long sleep, his mind had adapted to exist partially outside normal space-time. The Dominion's containment technology couldn't touch something that existed in quantum dimensions. They're not giving up, June observed, as another wave of ships appeared ahead of them. They can't afford to, Tay replied. If I reach Bin and wake him up, they'll be facing 2 Star-Annihilators instead of 1. Their entire control system depends on keeping us separated and unconscious. A massive Dominion battleship dropped out of hyperspace directly in their path. It was 10 times larger than the Bekye, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Admiral Velthar's personal command ship, designed specifically for hunting the most dangerous enhanced beings in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Velthar of the Dominion Pacification Fleet," came a transmission. "Star-Annihilator Kim Tae, you will surrender immediately and return to stasis. Continued resistance will result in the termination of all human colonies." Tae laughed, and the sound carried an edge that made June shiver. "Tell the Admiral something for me. Tell him that humanity doesn't negotiate with slavers." He reached out with his enhanced consciousness and touched the massive battleship's power core. The ship's advanced shielding might as well have been made of paper. Tae's awareness flowed through the vessel's systems like water, learning every circuit, every weapon, every defensive measure. Then he began to change things. The battleship's weapons turned on the smaller Dominion ships around it. Its communication. Arrays began broadcasting the true history of Dominion expansion, including classified files about the hundreds of species they had destroyed. Its navigation system plotted a course directly into Jupiter's gravity well. Admiral Velthar and his crew evacuated in escape pods as their own ship became their enemy. They watched in horror as the most advanced hunter vessel in the Dominion fleet flew itself into the gas giant's crushing atmosphere. "Impossible," Velthar whispered. "No enhanced being has ever been able to completely subvert Dominion technology." The Baekje flew past the wreckage and continued toward the asteroid belt. Behind it, the remaining Dominion ships hesitated. Their crews had just watched a Star-Annihilator turn their most powerful weapon against them with nothing more than thought. "Admiral," one of his officers said quietly, "perhaps we should request reinforcements from the core worlds." Velthar stared at the energy readings still coming from Tae's location. The power levels were growing stronger, not weaker. The Star-Annihilator wasn't being depleted by using his abilities. He was getting more powerful. "Send a priority message to the Dominion Council," Velthar ordered. "Tell them we need to implement Final Peace Protocol immediately. This species can't be contained anymore." As the Baekje approached the hidden facility where Choi Bin waited in his frozen chamber, Tai felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Hope. For the first time since waking up, he believed that humanity could actually break free from the Dominion's control. But he also knew that the real war was just beginning. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They wouldn't give up their power without using every weapon at their disposal. Soon, they would drop all pretense of friendship and reveal their true nature to the galaxy. When that happened, every species would have to choose between freedom and security. Tae smiled as the asteroid facility came into view. It was time to wake up his brother and start evening the odds. The asteroid facility looked like any other mining station from the outside. Rusty metal structures, empty conveyor belts, and dark windows that suggested the place had been abandoned for decades. But as the Baekje approached, Kim Tae could sense the powerful energy sources hidden deep within the asteroid's core. "The entrance is on the dark side," Kim Jun said, piloting the ship around the spinning rock. "The Resistance has been maintaining this place for 200 years. Your friend Choi Bin is sleeping about 3 kilometers down." Tae felt a familiar presence stirring in the depths of the facility. His enhanced consciousness could touch the edge of Bin's sleeping mind. Even in stasis, his brother Star-Annihilator was dreaming of war. They docked at a hidden bay carved into the asteroid's surface. Inside, resistance members waited to greet them. These humans looked different from Yang Su's team. They were miners and engineers, people who had spent their lives working in the harsh environment of deep space. Their hands were rough, their faces weathered, but their eyes burned with the same determination Tay had seen in the lunar facility. "I'm Foreman Han Sik," their leader said. "We've been waiting for this day since our grandfathers first came to this rock. Choi Bin is ready for awakening, but you should know that the process might be dangerous. His chamber has been sealed for almost 3 centuries. They traveled through corridors carved from solid rock, past equipment that hummed with barely contained energy." The facility was much larger than it appeared from outside. Entire sections had been hollowed out and filled with technology that blended human engineering with stolen alien devices. At the facility's heart, they found Choi Bin's chamber. The room was circular, with walls covered in displays showing his vital signs. In the center stood a cylinder of reinforced metal and crystal, filled with a glowing blue fluid. Through the transparent sections, Tay could see his old comrade floating in suspended animation. Bin looked exactly as he had 300 years ago. A man in his early 30s with strong features and the lean build of a soldier. But Tay's enhanced senses could detect the changes that had occurred during his long sleep. Bin's body was generating energy patterns that hadn't existed when they were first created. "He's evolved too," Tay said with wonder. "Just like I did." Foreman Han Sik activated the awakening sequence. Machines around the chamber began to hum with increasing intensity. The blue fluid started to drain away, revealing monitoring cables and life support systems attached to Bin's motionless form. "Warning," an automated voice announced. "Subject is showing unexpected neural activity. Energy levels are beyond safe parameters." Tay placed his hand on the chamber wall. Immediately, his consciousness connected with Bin's sleeping mind. What he found there made him step back in shock. Bin wasn't just dreaming. He was reliving every moment of human history since his sleep began. His enhanced awareness had been processing information from quantum fluctuations in space, learning about the Dominion's control of humanity through the background radiation of the universe itself. "He already knows," Tay whispered. "He knows what they did to us." The chamber doors opened with a hiss of escaping gas. Choi Bin's eyes snapped open, and they blazed with the same blue fire that burned in Ty's gaze. But where Ty's power felt like controlled lightning, Bin's energy was pure destruction barely held in check. He sat up slowly, the monitoring cables falling away from his body. When he spoke, his voice carried undertones that made the metal walls vibrate. "Brother," he said, looking at Tay, "I felt you wake up. I felt your rage calling across space." He stood, and cracks appeared in the floor under his feet. "They caged us. They caged our entire species," Tay nodded. "For 289 years, but now we're going to break those cages." Bin smiled, and the expression was terrible. His hands began to glow with the same blue energy as his eyes. Around them, the air itself started to shimmer and distort. "I dreamed of this moment," Bin said. "Every night for 3 centuries I dreamed of making them pay for what they stole from humanity." The facility's alarms began blaring. Through the walls, they could hear the sound of metal straining and creaking. Bin's awakening was generating so much energy that it was affecting the structural integrity of the entire asteroid. "We need to move," June said urgently. "The Dominion ships will detect this energy surge from across the solar system." But before they could leave, space around the asteroid erupted with light. Dominion vessels materialized from hyperspace, surrounding the facility with hundreds of ships. Admiral Velthar had brought everything he could gather, including experimental weapons that had never been tested against Star-Annihilators. "This is your final warning," Velthar's voice echoed through the facility's communications system. "Surrender now, or we will destroy the entire asteroid." Bin looked at Tay with excitement in his glowing eyes. "Shall we show them what we learned while we were sleeping?" "Together," Tay agreed. The two Star-Annihilators reached out with their enhanced consciousness, their minds linking in ways that amplified both their abilities. Tay's power to manipulate matter combined with Bin's talent for pure destruction, creating something new and terrifying. The Dominion ships opened fire with every weapon they possessed: energy beams that could crack planets, quantum disruptors that could unmake matter at the atomic level, and neural scramblers designed to drive enhanced beings insane. The weapons struck the asteroid and simply disappeared. The combined power of two Star-Annihilators created a field around the facility that absorbed energy attacks and converted them into raw power that made both brothers stronger. "Impossible!" Admiral Velthar gasped from his command ship. "They're feeding on our weapons fire." Bin raised his hand toward the nearest Dominion vessel. The ship, a massive cruiser with enough firepower to destroy a small moon, began to glow from within. Its hull turned white-hot, then began to expand like a balloon. "What's happening to my ship?" the cruiser's captain screamed over the communication. "Channels. He's turning your fusion reactors into miniature stars," Tay explained calmly. "In about 30 seconds, your ship will become an expanding cloud of plasma." The cruiser exploded in a flash of light that outshone the distant sun. The other Dominion ships pulled back in fear, but Bin wasn't finished. He gestured at 3 more vessels, and they suffered the same fate. In less than a minute, he had destroyed ships that should have been able to level entire continents. "Retreat!" Velthar ordered. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance." But as the Dominion fleet pulled back, Tay was already reaching out, toward Europa with his enhanced senses. Somewhere beneath that moon's ice, Onari was beginning to stir. The energy released by Bin's awakening was calling to her across the vast emptiness of space. "She's waking up," he told Bin. "Nari is responding to your power." Bin's smile grew wider. "Good. Let's go collect our sister." They boarded the Baekye along with June and a small team of resistance fighters. As they flew away from the asteroid facility, Tay looked back at the Dominion ships maintaining their cautious distance. "They're scared," he observed. "They should be," Bin replied. "They've never faced 2 Star-Annihilators working together. But wait until all 4 of us are awake. Then they'll learn what real fear feels like." The journey to Europa took 6 hours, with the Dominion fleet following at a respectful distance. Velthar didn't dare attack again, not after watching his most powerful ships turned into expanding gas clouds. Instead, he sent urgent messages to the Dominion Council, requesting permission to use weapons that were normally forbidden even in warfare. As Europa grew larger in the Byakia's viewports, they could see lights flickering beneath the moon's ice. Something was stirring in the depths, responding to the presence of her awakened brothers. Nari always was the most dangerous of us, Bin said quietly. If my power can destroy ships, and yours can manipulate matter, hers can rewrite the basics, laws of biology. She can turn a planet's entire ecosystem into a weapon. Tay felt anticipation building in his chest. Soon, 3 Star-Annihilators would be awake and working together. The Dominion had kept humanity under control for almost 3 centuries, but that age was coming to an end. On Europa's surface, cracks were spreading across the ice as something immensely powerful stirred in the hidden depths below. The facility's systems were already detecting energy patterns that defied current understanding of physics. Onari was waking up, and her dreams had been filled with visions of a galaxy where humanity was free to become everything they were meant to be. The ice moon trembled as those dreams began to merge with reality. Soon, the Dominion would face the full power of humanity's gods of war, united for the first time in 300 years. The ice on Europa's surface cracked like broken glass as the Bekje descended toward the hidden facility. Steam rose from the fractures, where Onari's awakening power was melting frozen water that had been solid for millions of years. Even from orbit, Kim Tae and Choi Bin could feel their sister's consciousness stirring from its long sleep. The entire moon is responding to her, Bin observed, watching the energy readings spike on their instruments. She's not even fully awake yet, and she's already affecting Europa's entire ecosystem, deep beneath the ice, in a facility disguised as a climate research station. Onari's eyes opened for the first time in 289 years. Unlike her brothers, her awakening was quiet and controlled. But the changes she brought to the world around her were far more profound. The bacteria that lived in Europa's underground ocean began to evolve at impossible speeds. Simple organisms became complex in minutes, developing new abilities and forming connections across vast distances. The entire moon was becoming a single vast living system with Nari at its center. She's turning Europa into a weapon, Tay realized. Not destroying it like we would, but transforming it into something alive and aware. They landed at the facility's hidden entrance, where resistance members waited with expressions of awe and terror. The air itself seemed to shimmer with new possibilities as Nari's power spread through every living thing on the moon. "Dr. Lim Haye is waiting for you," one of the researchers said. "But be careful. Oh, Nari's awakening is affecting all of us. Some of the team have started showing enhanced abilities themselves." They found Dr. Lim in the facility's main laboratory, surrounded by displays showing biological data that changed faster than the computers could process it. She was an older woman with gray hair and keen eyes that now held flecks of the same blue light that burned in the Star-Annihilator's gaze. "The awakening began 6 hours ago," she explained. At first, we thought something was wrong with the containment systems, but then we realized that Nari wasn't breaking free from her chamber. She was expanding her consciousness through every living cell in the facility. They descended to the deepest level where Nari's chamber waited. Unlike the mechanical restraints that had held Tay and Bin, her prison looked more like a garden. Vines and strange flowering plants covered the walls, all of them pulsing with the same blue energy that marked enhanced human consciousness. At the center of the room, Onari sat peacefully in what had once been a containment chair. The metal restraints had been transformed into living wood that held her gently, rather than forcing her into place. Her eyes were open, and when she saw her brothers, she smiled with an expression of infinite calm. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the plants around them bloom with new colors. "I felt you both wake up. I felt your anger burning across space like stars being born." Tay approached carefully. His enhanced senses told him that everything within 100 meters of Nari had been changed by her power. The air itself was alive, filled with microscopic organisms that served as extensions of her consciousness. "Sister," he said, "do you know what the Dominion did to us? What they did to humanity?" Nari's smile faded, and for a moment her power flared with something that might have been anger. The plants on the walls grew thorns, and the air filled with spores that could rewrite the genetic code of any living thing they touched. "I know everything," she replied. "For 289 years, I've been connected to every form of life in this solar system. I've watched them slowly poison our species with limitations and lies. I've seen how they've crippled not just humanity, but dozens of other races." She stood, and the living restraints fell away like flower petals. Around them, the facility began to change as her power spread through its systems. Metal walls became semi-organic surfaces that pulsed with life. Computer systems merged with biological networks that could process information faster than any purely mechanical device. "The Dominion thinks they understand biology," Nari continued. "They use genetic engineering like a crude tool, making simple changes to control their subject species. But they've never learned to work with life itself. They don't understand that consciousness and biology are the same thing at the deepest level." Above them, alarms began ringing throughout the facility. Admiral Velthar's fleet had detected the massive biological changes occurring on Europa and was moving to surround the moon. "They're bringing everything they have," Bin said, studying the tactical displays. "Over 500 ships, including some designs I've never seen before." Dr. Lim looked up from her instruments with worry in her enhanced eyes. "Those are nullifier ships. The Dominion has been working on them for decades. They're crewed by artificial beings designed specifically to counter Star-Annihilator abilities." Tay felt his rage flare hotter. "They've been preparing to fight us this entire time." "Of course they have," Nari said calmly. "The Dominion has ruled for 10,000 years because they prepare for every threat. They have protocols for dealing with species that develop enhanced individuals. They have weapons designed to counter every known form of superhuman ability. But they've never faced 3 Star-Annihilators working together," Bin added with a fierce grin. Nari's expression became thoughtful. Actually, that's not quite true. They have faced beings like us before. Do you want to know what happened to them? She gestured, and the air around them filled with microscopic organisms that formed complex patterns of light and shadow. The patterns showed images of other species, other worlds, other beings who had once possessed incredible powers. The Zenthi could manipulate gravity and space-time, she explained. The Vaktar could rewrite genetic codes at will. The Mordan could control fundamental forces of physics. All of them were more advanced than the Dominion when first contact was made. The images showed these powerful beings in their prime, reshaping worlds and bending reality to their will. Then the scenes changed, showing the same species after centuries of Dominion influence. They were diminished, their powers suppressed, their potential capped by treaties and limitations. Some accepted the change willingly, Nari continued. They were convinced that their abilities were too dangerous for a peaceful galaxy. Others resisted and were destroyed completely. Their homeworlds were sterilized, their history erased. How many? Tay asked quietly. Hundreds of species over the millennia. The galaxy should be filled with beings of incredible power, working together to explore the universe and push the boundaries of what's possible. Instead, it's ruled by fear and maintained through control. The facility shook as the first Dominion ships entered Europa's atmosphere. But instead of attacking immediately, they took positions around the moon and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Citizens of the galaxy, Admiral Velthar's voice echoed through space. The Dominion Council has authorized me to inform you of a terrible threat. The human species has unleashed ancient weapons of mass destruction. Star-Annihilators are beings capable of destroying entire civilizations. They must be contained for the safety of all peaceful species. Across Dominion space, the message was received by 47 different civilizations. Most accepted it without question, as they had accepted Dominion authority for generations. But on some worlds, older beings remembered stories their grandparents had told them about the time before the Dominion brought peace. On the Zenthi homeworld, an ancient gravity manipulator named Zenkara felt something stir in his suppressed consciousness. The energy signatures from the human solar system reminded him of his people's lost power. In the Vaktar colonies, genetic engineers who had been forced to limit their research began to wonder what they might have accomplished without Dominion oversight. Among the Morden, scattered survivors of the core world purges whispered to each other about the possibility that someone, somewhere, was finally fighting back. They're trying to turn the galaxy against us, Bin observed, listening to the broadcasts. Let them, Nari replied. Some species are too broken to remember what they once were. But others will recognize what we represent. We're proof that the Dominion's control can be broken. She reached out with her enhanced consciousness, touching the biological networks she had created throughout the solar system. In moments, she was connected to every form of life from Mercury to Pluto. I can feel them, she said with wonder. Other enhanced beings, scattered across dozens of worlds. Most of them are in hiding or suppressing their own abilities out of fear. But they're still there. Still alive. still capable of greatness. Tay felt hope growing in his chest. How many? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. The Dominion never managed to eliminate all the enhanced individuals from the species they conquered. They just convinced them to stay hidden. Above Europa, the nullifier ships began their attack. These vessels looked different from normal Dominion craft. They were sleek and organic, crewed by artificial beings that had been grown rather than built. Each nullifier was designed to match the abilities of a specific type of enhanced individual. The artificial beings had studied captured Star-Annihilator technology for centuries. They understood how enhanced human consciousness worked, how to disrupt neural patterns, how to counter superhuman abilities. But they had one critical weakness. They were artificial. The lights flickered again on the bridge of the Soul's Pride. Captain Lee Daeho didn't even look up from his coffee. After 15 years commanding this old ship, he knew every creak, every spark, and every mechanical complaint it made. The dead fusion reactor was acting up again, but Engineer Kim Bora would fix it. She always did. "Sir, we're getting another power fluctuation in Sector 7, reported Lieutenant Yoon Seok from the communications station. His young face showed worry, but Lee just nodded calmly. "Tell Kim Bora to give the reactor a good kick," Lee said with a small smile. "She'll know what I mean." The bridge of the Soul's Pride looked nothing like the sleek command centers of modern ships. Instead of floating holographic displays and smooth metal surfaces, everything was made of worn steel and blinking lights. The crew had to push actual buttons and flip real switches. Some of the younger officers called it ancient. Lee called it reliable. Commander Park Mina walked onto the bridge carrying a data pad. Her boots made solid sounds on the metal floor. She had been Lee's second in command for 8 years, and she understood the ship almost as well as he did. "Captain, we just received new patrol orders from command," she said, handing him the pad. "They want us to check the outer rim sectors. Nothing exciting, just the usual sweep for pirates and smugglers." Lee read the orders and shook his head. The Soul's Pride was 150 years old, and everyone in the Galactic Defense Coalition knew it. While the newer ships got the important missions, his crew was stuck doing routine patrols. The ship had been built during the Second Colonial War, when humans were still figuring out how to fight in space. Back then, ships were built tough and simple. They had thick armor, big guns, and reactors that could run for decades without major repairs. "At least it's honest work," Lee said, passing the pad back to Park Mina. "Better than sitting in dock while the repair crews tell us everything that's wrong with our ship." The truth was, Lee loved the Soul's Pride exactly as it was. Yes, it was old. Yes, it used ballistic weapons instead of energy beams. Yes, it ran on fusion instead of the fancy quantum reactors that powered modern ships. But it had something the new ships didn't have: character. Dr. Cho Hyun entered the bridge, his medical bag in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. The ship's doctor was older than Lee, with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He had served on the Soul's Pride longer than anyone else. "Captain, I've finished the crew health reports," Dr. Cho said. "Everyone is fit for duty. Though I did have to remind Gunner's mate Han Su that the medical bay is not the place to test his homemade hot sauce. Lee laughed. Han Su was famous throughout the ship for his cooking experiments. Most of them were actually quite good, though some were dangerous enough to melt hull plating. "How's morale, Doc?" Lee asked. It was a question he asked every week, and Dr. Cho always gave him an honest answer. "Good, considering," Dr. Cho replied. "The crew knows what other people think of this ship. They hear the jokes about the flying museum and the antique with engines. But they also know this ship works. They trust it, and they trust you." Lee nodded. His crew was made up of veterans who had been passed over for promotion, young officers who couldn't get assigned to better ships, and specialists who preferred the old ways of doing things. On paper, they looked like the Coalition's rejects. In reality, they were some of the best people Lee had ever served with. Petty Officer Nam Wu looked up from his sensor station. Unlike the newer ships that used AI-assisted scanning systems, the Soul's Pride relied on human operators to read its sensors. Nam Wu was the best sensor operator Lee had ever seen. He could spot a cloaked ship at twice the range of the fancy automated systems. "Captain, I'm picking up something odd," Nam Wu said, his voice careful and professional. "It's a distress signal, but it's very weak. The signal is coming from the direction of Kepler 442b. Lee stood up and walked over to the sensor station. Kepler 442b was home to a research station run by the Coalition Science Division. It was supposed to be one of the safest places in the Outer Rim. "What kind of distress signal?" Lee asked. Nam Wu adjusted his controls, trying to clean up the signal. The Soul's Pride's communications equipment was old, but it was also very sensitive. Sometimes the old analog systems could pick up signals that the digital systems missed. "It's fragmenting, sir," Nam Wu reported. "I can only catch pieces of it. But I think they mentioned something called Cipher 8 before the signal cut out." Commander Park Mina looked up sharply. "Cipher 8? Are you sure?" Nam Wu played the signal again, and they all listened carefully. Through the static and interference, they could hear a panicked voice saying, "The Cipher 8 has, please send help, station is," then nothing but empty static. Lee felt a cold chill run down his spine. Every officer in the Coalition had heard stories about the Cipher 8, but most people thought it was just a legend. According to the stories, it was some kind of alien superweapon from a race that had disappeared thousands of years ago. The tales said it could destroy entire fleets without warning, turning the most advanced ships into dust and energy. "Lieutenant Yoon, try to contact Kepler 442b directly," Lee ordered. "Use all frequencies." Yoon Seok worked at his station for several minutes, sending out calls on every communication channel the ship had. The Soul's Pride might be old, but it had more different types of communication equipment than most modern ships. Sometimes having backup systems for your backup systems was useful. "Nothing, sir," Yoon reported. "No response on any channel. It's like the station just disappeared." Lee made his decision quickly. "Navigator Ojiwon, set course for Kepler 442b, maximum speed. Commander Park, send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them we received a distress signal mentioning a Cipher 8 and we're investigating." Ojiwon was young, but she had incredible natural ability when it came to navigation. She could plot courses through asteroid fields and nebulae that would challenge ships with the most advanced AI systems. Her fingers danced over the manual controls, calculating the fastest route to the research station. "Course laid in, Captain," she reported. "At our best speed, we'll reach Kepler 442b in 18 hours. Parkmina looked worried. "Captain, if the Cypher 8 is real, then we'll deal with it," Lee said firmly. "We might be flying an old ship, but we're still coalition officers. If there are people in trouble, we help them. That's what we do." The bridge fell quiet except for the steady hum of the engines and the soft beeping of various instruments. Everyone knew the stories about the Cypher 8, if even half of them were. True, the Soul's Pride and her crew might be flying toward something far more dangerous than pirates or smugglers, but Lee had faith in his ship and his people. The Soul's Pride might be obsolete by modern standards, but it had survived 150 years of service. It had fought pirates, explored unknown systems, and carried its crew safely through dangers that had destroyed newer, more advanced ships. As the old destroyer jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward the unknown danger at Kepler 442b, Lee settled back into his captain's chair. Whatever they found there, they would face it together. And if the Cypher 8 was real, it was about to discover that sometimes the old ways were the best ways.